It's me again. You've come to Menopause University, and I'm here to teach you more about ovarian cancer. We're just chugging along in this unit. It's somewhat like a fast-moving train. Funnily enough, I began this unit with video number 413, likening your entire reproductive tract to a train. And you probably thought I was a bit nuts for doing so, but guess what? I did it for a reason. And the reason was so that I could catch that train again today and take you farther down the track of understanding ovarian cancer. Thus far, you have discovered that although there are 3 different types of cells in your ovaries, the type of cell that causes the most common and most fatal form of ovarian cancer is the outer coating of epithelial cells that is a whole lot like saran wrap. And the kind of cancer that these outer epithelial cells become is called epithelial ovarian cancer. But alas, there are even different kinds of epithelial ovarian cancer. Can you believe that there are so many layers of complexity with this one entity? We're only at the 7th video in the ovarian cancer unit, and you've already seen that there are 21 kinds of ovarian cancer, each of which can be any of 3 different degrees of cancer's potential, making the total number 63. Here's a chart we created in the last tutorial depicting the different origins and classifications of ovarian cancers. What you see is the 3 classifications of ovarian cancers: germ cell cancers, gonadal stromal cell cancers, and epithelial cell cancers. We will focus on only the 3rd column in pink, and as indicated by the bold font, we will address only 4 of the epithelial ovarian cancers in that column. Now, don't look for this in my book. It's not there. In these videos, I have led you up to the pertinent kind of ovarian cancer that gets everybody's attention. In my book, I don't. There, I just start right in on the epithelial ovarian cancer itself. All right, let's begin. Remember this. We built this in video number 413. This demonstrates that your reproductive tract resembles a train track and the various cars that are on a train track. Your ovaries are egg and hormone factories analogous to the train factory or the engine of the train. Your fallopian tubes are highways for egg and sperm to meet, analogous to the train station or the passenger car. Your uterus is a baby carriage for carrying your baby to term, analogous to the long train track or the cargo car. And your cervix is a door, an exit door for delivery of your baby, analogous to the arrival terminal or caboose of a train. Here's the chart we created for this material. Well, the reason I started this ovarian cancer unit with this train analogy rather than just starting with the ovaries themselves is because different ovarian cancers resemble different parts of your reproductive tract. And the part of the reproductive tract that they resemble determines practically everything about how the cancer behaves. So this is super important. I've told you that there's always a method to my madness. When I create these tutorials, I anticipate all your questions and potential areas of confusion. And that's what drives the train in terms of how I present the material. If I hadn't started with the train and the train tract, today's material would completely baffle you. So we're going to be expanding on this today. Now, I don't know anything about trains, and I know even less about train tracks. But it is my understanding that there are different materials for different parts of the tract. In some places, the railroad consists of steel rails. In others, it consists of concrete rails. And in others, it consists of wooden rails. These different materials are necessary for the train to run smoothly on the track. Well, guess what? The very same thing is true of your reproductive tract. The obvious difference is that instead of rails lining your reproductive tract, you have epithelial cells lining your reproductive tract. Oh, but all epithelial cells are not the same. Just think about how different your epithelial cells are on the palms of your hands compared to under your eyes. Some epithelial cells are fine and thin, others are tough and thick. So just as the epithelial cells on the outside of your body vary from one location to another, so do the epithelial cells lining your reproductive tract. I've already taught you that epithelium is skin. Wherever you have epithelium, it functions as a skin-like surface covering an anatomical structure. And even though you think of skin as being something that is only on the outside of your body, the fact is that the outside surface of every organ is covered with epithelial cells. And sometimes the inside surface of an organ is lined or covered with epithelial cells. Most hollow organs with an open interior space are lined with epithelial cells. So the outside surface of your ovaries and fallopian tubes are covered with epithelial cells. And the inside lining of your uterus and cervix are covered with epithelial cells. But they are not all the same. The epithelial cells covering each surface or lining each interior hollow organ are unique to that organ. So, the epithelial cells covering your ovaries and fallopian tubes differ from those that line your uterus and cervix. This is precisely how we end up with 4 different epithelial ovarian cancers. And the 4 different epithelial ovarian cancers are named according to how closely the cancer cells resemble the normal epithelial covering or lining cells of different parts of your reproductive tract. So let's address each of the 4 and discover how they differ. Let's start way up here with your ovaries. I've already taught you that the outer epithelial covering of your ovaries has an alternative name. This stuff, the saran wrap, it has another name. It's commonly known as serosa, or the serous layer of your ovaries. It's the layer that surrounds your ovaries and resembles saran wrap. So cancers that originate from or resemble the serosa of your ovaries themselves are called serous epithelial cancers. And let's label these as we go along so that you don't get confused. So what I'm going to do is put serous right here next to your ovaries. And I've put it there because your ovaries produce serous epithelial ovarian cancer. Next, we have your fallopian tubes. And it just so happens that your fallopian tubes are covered with the very same kind of epithelial cells as the epithelial cells that cover your ovaries. So these are serous cells too. This means that cancers originating from or resembling the serosa of your fallopian tubes are called serous epithelial cancer. So we're putting another label next to your fallopian tubes that says the same thing, serous. So the big thing to notice is that both your ovaries and your fallopian tubes can cause serous epithelial ovarian cancer. Two different anatomical parts that develop into the same horrible, common, fatal cancer. After that, we have your uterus. Now, for purposes of epithelial ovarian cancers, your uterus has two different kinds of epithelial linings. One when you're pregnant and another when you aren't. This makes sense because everything changes during pregnancy. The epithelial lining inside your uterus when you are not pregnant is called endometrium. You learned that way back in the unit on endometrial uterine cancer. So cancers originating from or resembling the endometrial cells lining your non-pregnant uterus are called endometrioid epithelial cancer. So we're going to add that to our board. Here we have endometrioid, and over here next to it, I'm going to put no pregnancy so that you understand that this is the kind of cancer that develops from cells that do not resemble pregnancy. But when you're pregnant, these endometrial cells take on a completely different appearance. Specifically, they become bigger and clearer in color. So they're called clear cells. As a result, cancers originating from or resembling the endometrial cells lining a pregnant uterus are called clear cell epithelial ovarian cancers. And so I'm going to add that label here, again, next to the uterus because it's still originating from uterine type cells. And we'll put pregnancy there so that you see that both of these originate from uterine tissue, but one resembles the non-pregnant uterine tissue, the other one resembles the pregnant uterine tissue. Finally, we have the epithelial cells lining your cervix. These epithelial cells are called mucinous cells. This means that any cancers originating from or resembling the epithelial cells lining your cervix are called mucinous epithelial cancers. So I'll put this designation here next to the cervix. So there you have it. These are the epithelial ovarian cancers of concern. But wait, we can make this very easy. One of these epithelial ovarian cancers is much more common than all the others. It's the one that is so fatal. It's the one that everybody talks about. Care to guess which one it is? It's this one. It's serous epithelial ovarian cancer. All you have to remember is that serous is serious. And notice that serous epithelial ovarian cancer can originate from either your ovaries or your fallopian tubes. That's why it's up here on our board twice. So instead of arising from just one of your reproductive parts, serous epithelial ovarian cancer can arise from two of your reproductive parts. Here's a pie chart depicting the relative incidence of these four different kinds of epithelial ovarian cancers. That huge blue section is the serous ovarian cancers. The next largest orange region is the clear cell ovarian cancers. The gray sliver is endometrioid ovarian cancers, and the yellow sliver is mucinous ovarian cancers. The serous ovarian cancers comprise more than 85% of all ovarian cancers. This is why you needn't worry about the others. They warrant concern only if they affect you personally. And if you have any concerns over any of the others, please schedule a consultation with me so that you get the information you need. So the remainder of this unit will focus on serous epithelial ovarian cancer. But you need to know that even though we assume we're addressing only serous epithelial ovarian cancers, we will actually be including some of the others inadvertently. This is not because I will be breaching my principles of specificity. It will be because research on ovarian cancers does not distinguish one kind from the others. So while the different kinds of epithelial ovarian cancer are distinct, the research on them is not. And the result is that instead of studying a homogeneous group of cancers that are all similar, researchers inadvertently study a heterogeneous group of cancers that are dissimilar. But that is beyond our control. Just know that this is a glitch in the state of affairs, and definitely don't ever compare ovarian cancers between two women. You could be comparing completely different diseases. If we expand our train analogy chart by addressing and adding these different kinds of epithelial ovarian cancers, we get this. All I've done is add a column on the far right. You see the heading kind of epithelial ovarian cancer, and you see the designated cancers alongside the corresponding part of the reproductive tract. So here's your summary for today. There are four different kinds of epithelial ovarian cancer. They are named according to how closely they resemble the normal epithelial covering or lining cells of different parts of your reproductive tract. Serous epithelial ovarian cancer originates in or resembles your ovaries or fallopian tubes. Endometrioid epithelial ovarian cancer originates in or resembles your non-pregnant uterus. Clear cell epithelial ovarian cancer originates in or resembles your pregnant uterus. Mucinous epithelial ovarian cancer originates in or resembles your cervix. By far, the most common and most deadly is serous epithelial ovarian cancer. You can find our expanded chart via the link in the description box, or you can go to menopausetailor.me. And while you're there, schedule the life-changing consultation that you deserve. You can also follow me on Facebook, Instagram, Stories, Twitter, TikTok, you name it. And you can and should subscribe here to my channel and my newsletter. And I will see you next week for a tutorial on the serious statistics for serous epithelial ovarian cancer. Bye, my dears.